Alright guys, in the last video we made it to get to the point where we click an edit button and it puts whatever that post is into the form. Now there's a few other things we need to do aside from that. So what we're going to do is change the state. So in the UI.js, when we call fill form, after we put the fields in the form, we want to call a function or a method within this class that we haven't created yet called change form state, and we want to pass in edit. Okay, that's the value we want to pass in. So now let's go and create that function. So this will change the form state. So change form state, and that takes in a type, which is what we're passing in here. So we want to do an if statement, and we want to say if the type is equal to edit, then we want to do some certain things, else then we want to do other things. Now if it's edit, I want to change the button here, this button. I want to change the text to update post. I want to change the color, and yeah, I just want to change the color and the text. So to do that, we're going to take this dot post submit, which is a property we created a while ago, and we're going to say dot text content equals update post. All right, so now if I click the edit, you'll see it changes to update post. To change the color, what I'm going to do is take that post submit and then take class name, and I want to change it from btn primary to btn warning, but class name is the entire string of classes, so we have to include the other ones as well. So we need post submit, we need btn, and the one we're changing is btn warning. That's what I want to change it to. And then we also want btn block. So let's save, and now let's click and edit, and there we go, we get update post. Now another thing I want to do is create a cancel button below it to get out of this state. So to do that, we're going to create a variable called button and set it to document.createElement. This is going to be similar to how we did the alert. Now you could always just add the button in your HTML and hide it with CSS and then just show it here, but I think this is a more intuitive way of doing it. Instead of just putting it in and hiding it, you're actually creating it in this function. And it's up to you how you want to do it, but I think that this is a good way to do it. So let's say class name. We're going to set the classes for this button. So let's give it a class of post cancel. btn, we're going to give it a btn light and btn block. Okay, now we want to add the text, so we'll say button.append child. We want to create a text node, so document.create text node, and it'll say cancel edit. Okay, so now we need to work on inserting it into the DOM. So let's get the parent, and the parent is going to be the card form, which is, let's see, card form. So is it in the index HTML? Yeah, right here. So this card form class. Now, yeah, let's set const card form equal to document dot query selector card form. Then we want to get the post submit button. So let's say, I'm sorry, not get the post submit. We want to get the element to insert before. Now this is where that weird span came in that you were probably wondering about, this form end, because I want to insert it before this. Okay, so right in between here. So we're going to grab that. So let's do const form end. Set that to document.querySelector class form end. And then we want to insert the cancel button. So we'll take the card form and we'll say insert before, pass in the button, and then the form end, which is what we want to insert it before. Okay, so let's save that and let's click edit, and now we have a cancel button. Now it doesn't do anything yet. We haven't added a listener for it, but it is there. So we also want to be able to change the state back to add. So anything other than edit is going to be add. So let's go down here and we're going to change the color, the button back. So we'll change post submit back to, what was it, post it. And then we're just going to change this class to primary. And then we want to remove the cancel button if it's there. So let's say remove cancel button if it is there. So we'll say if document.querySelector, and it has a class of post-cancel. Okay, so if that's there, then we want to say document.querySelector post cancel, and we want to remove it. So that'll remove it. We also want to clear the ID from the hidden field. So we're going to actually have a separate method to do that called clear ID input, which will be really simple. And then we also want to clear the text fields. So we already have a method for that called clear fields. All right, and that'll set it back to the add state. So let's quickly create the clear ID input. I'm just going to put it right above. So clear ID input, and all we need to do is set this dot ID input dot value to nothing. All right, so let's go ahead and save. Now we need a listener for, whoops, I just added another post. You know what, let's take care of that right now. So let's see, we'll go to our app.js and go to add post. Where is it? Or submit post. And let's say right here, if title is equal to nothing or body is equal to nothing, then let's show alert. We'll say please add fields, or please fill in all fields, and we'll give it a class of alert and alert danger. And then everything else we'll put inside of here. So we'll grab this. Let's see, what is this the end of? That's the end of this submit post, so we don't want that curly brace, but we want all of this inside of here. Okay, so now if I click, whoops, what happened? Oh, there we go. So if I click post, Show alert is not defined. That's because we need UI.showAlert. So click, please fill in all fields just to test this out. Post added, good. So that takes care of the validation. Now back to the edit. So we want to add an event listener for this cancel edit. When we click it, it needs to go back to the add state. So let's add an event listener up here. So we'll say listen for cancel, and let's do document.query selector, and we're going to use event delegation. So I'm going to choose the card form itself. Card form dot add event listener, and we want to click, and we want to call cancel edit. All right, we'll go down here and create that. I'll say cancel edit state function cancel edit, and let's pass in an event object here, and we're just going to do an if statement. We're going to say if the event.target.class list contains the class of post cancel, so we're targeting the cancel button, then we want to call UI.changeFormState, and we want to change it back to the add state. All right, and then we'll just prevent the default. So let's save. So if we click edit, it goes into the edit state. I click cancel, it goes back into the add state. Perfect. Now you can see that there was quite a bit of work that went into just changing the state of the form. We haven't even done the update yet. All right, the update is actually the easy part. So what we'll do is go into our submit post, and the way that we're going to check to see if it's either an edit or an add is by checking to see if there's a value in the ID field, which is the hidden field. By default, there's nothing in there, so that means it's add. If there is something in there, then that means it's update. All right, so let's go into this else. All right, so this is where we said if, make sure, I'll actually put a comment here. We'll say validate input. So in here, we're going to put an if or an if else, and we're going to check for ID. So I'm going to check to see if ID, which we have defined, we don't have defined, but we need to, just like with the other fields. So if ID is equal to nothing, that means that this is the ads, we want to add or create a post. So let's say create post, and that is what we've been doing. So we're going to actually move the data up here. Actually, we can put the data up here, but we want to include the ID. Or do we? No, we don't. We don't need to. So put the data up there, and then the create post, we're going to take that and put that right here. Okay, and then else means that we need to update the post, not create it. So this will be a put request. So what I'll do is actually just copy this, and we're going to say http.put. Wait, is it put? No, it's let me just check real quick. I forget. So we have post, yeah, put. So we're going to call that, and the URL is going to be / and then the ID. So let's actually change this to a template string, and then say ID, and then we're passing in the data, And then in the dot then, we're going to change this alert to post updated. And we also want to change the form state back to add. Now, when we change the form state, it calls clear field, so we don't need to call it here again. So we'll just say UI.change form state back to add, and then we're going to get the post again. All right, so pretty easy. Let's go ahead and change post 1. Let's change it to post with the number 1. Same thing here. We'll click update, post updated. You can see it gets updated and the form goes back to the add state. So that's it. Now, once you want to compile your application, because right now it's just running in the server, if you want to compile it down to your build file, all you have to do is run npm run build. And that's going to go ahead and compile everything down. Even if you had, 20 or 30 different modules, it's all going to go to that one file. So that's your production file. That's what you want to upload to your server. So if we take a look at our entire project here, let's just close this stuff out here. I just want the project folder. All right, so if we take a look at this, we have our index.html, which is our main HTML file. We have our assets, which is the CSS and anything else that you want as an asset, images, stuff like that, static files. And then your build folder, which includes your app.bundle.js, which is all of your source code, all of this put into one file that you can use in your index.html, which is already included in the index.html. And those are the three things that you want to upload to your server. You don't want to include your source code. That's on your development machine. That's your development workflow. You don't want to include node modules. Those are just your dependencies, mostly dev dependencies. You don't want to include any of these core files, your webpack config. You just need the index, the assets, and the build file, the compiled JavaScript. Okay, so it makes it very easy, and you can just upload this right to your shared host. Now, in this case, we have a back end. We're dealing with an API, which usually would be something built with Node.js or Python or Ruby or something like that. In this case, we're using the JSON server, which mimics a real REST API. Now, that's a different story. That's back end development, and that's beyond this course. That would have to be on a server somewhere, usually a cloud server or VPS, maybe something like DigitalOcean or Heroku. You'd have your backend API on. But as far as the client side, the stuff that we've worked on, that can go anywhere. Okay, now the next step after this course would probably be to start to look into full stack development and looking into building real APIs and so on. But that's going to be it for this project, guys. In the next video, we're going to do a little wrap up and talk about what we've learned and talk about where you should go from here.